stay at home, and but it's good that I have a lot of conversation virtually and to take the class and webinar and so on. Quite rewarding and enriching actually in some ways. Yeah, so we are waiting for Raisa.
Okay, Raisa will joining, and we actually already live on YouTube.
Okay.
This is the link.
Okay.
Halo.
Halo, Sa.
Hai.
Wah,
kedengeran nggak?
Ya.
Agak gelap ya muka aku ya, bentar ya, aku setel lampu dulu. Halo.
Hai.
Raisa ini Kun dari Malaysia. Kuala Lumpur. And,
Okay. Hello, we are going to start. Hai Raisa, Hui Koon, and Putra Hidayatullah.
Hai Bang.
Hai.
We are going to start. Kita akan berbicara dalam berbagai bahasa ya.
Boleh.
Boleh. Oke. Tadi sih rencananya saya mau berbahasa Bugis, terus Putra dan Raisa bahasa Aceh, tapi gak enak sama teman-teman yang lain kalau ada yang nggak paham. So ya, kita akan mix up dengan beberapa bahasa Indonesia dan Inggris. Terima kasih Putra, Raisa dan Hui Koon bergabung di Walkie Talkie sesi ke-6 ini. Walkie Talkie sesi ke-6 ini Walkie Talkie sudah diselenggarakan sejak Mei 2020 dan ini yang ke-6. Yeah, Walkie Talkie is hanging out, telling stories conducted by us, ruangrupa, to connect with some friends where proximity doesn't refer to something geographical or physical. It's about stories on what it means to work and to live together. Dan kali ini, Walkie Talkie sesi 6 ini kami mengundang Putra Hidayatullah sebagai host dan atau storyteller sebagai sebagai host, dan Putra mengundang dua orang, yaitu Raisa Kamila dan Hui Koon. Saya rasa nanti Putra akan kenalkan Koon lebih jauh. Dan ya, Putra adalah seorang penulis dan juga pekerja kebudayaan, bergiat di komunitas Tikar Pandan. Tulisannya banyak ditemukan di berbagai media, terutama tulisan Putra went to School of Oriental and African Studies in Africa. So, and also currently he's doing stories on Lumbung and been published on the social media of Documenta 15. So if you notice, there are stories in the Documenta 15 Instagram account. It's been made by Putra about, it's like a it's like a semi-fiction on Lumbung. So I think I'm going to stop here, and then Putra, it's yours.
Right. Thank you very much, Bang Andan, for such impressive credits. And I'm very happy tonight to be part of this conversation. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank for Ruangrupa and Good School for allowing this conversation to happen. Sebenarnya normally kita biasanya memakai bahasa Inggris, tetapi malam ini kita mungkin akan mencoba menggabungkan ya antara bahasa Indonesia dan bahasa Inggris karena program ini actually was intended for people with various backgrounds. So I think English is one of the ways in which how we are getting close and get connected more to each other. So to me personally, I think it is very mesmerizing, the fact that we can share ideas and stories and perspective on a very specific practices and experience that we are going through. Jadi menarik sekali mungkin ketika kita saling berbagi pandangan dan pengetahuan tentang praktek-praktek yang kita lakukan dalam keseharian, terutama dalam kaitannya dengan kebudayaan. Especially in this sense, we are going to discuss our own reflection on the stories that we had through our dealing with art and literature. So probably I would start with a very personal story. Yeah? So it was for about 5 years ago. It was my first encounter with African literature. I read several short stories and I read novels. But of all those readings, there was one piece of thought that I still remember even until today. I think it is very fascinating. The saying is, it is an African proverb saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So I think this is very reflective for our conversation tonight. The fact that this is a very applicable across culture and time. I think the idea of working together and the idea of collaboration has happened in the past and will happen in the future, maybe, hopefully. And I think it is part of human nature, even though with different scale. Yeah. So tonight we are going to scrutinize further. Malam ini kita akan mencoba melihat lebih jauh tentang pengalaman-pengalaman dalam praktek-praktek kebudayaan, terutama dalam hal curating, kuratorial, dan juga storytelling. So I believe we have a very special guest tonight. They are going to share their stories based on their personal experiences. So here have come two speakers. First is Raisa Kamila. Raisa Kamila is my colleagues and my friends. I firstly knew her in 2014 when she went back to Banda Aceh from Jogja at that time, I still remember. And we had a discussion, movie discussion. At that time, I still remember the title was Barbara. It's about German movie, telling about the society in East Germany and West Germany. So after that, we often encounter for collaboration, kind of so-called probably collaboration. Like we had a similar class or quite similar class, like in ruangrupa. I took a workshop in curating, and she took a workshop in art critics, and also we had kelas kritik. Kelas ilmu sosial in Banda Aceh back then. So there are some kind of collaboration. And Raisa has been moving from one place to another. She was in Jogja, and then she moved to Banda Aceh, and then she spent some time in Netherlands, and now she is living in Bandung. She is actually has backgrounds in philosophy. She studied philosophy in Gajah Mada University, and and then she studied history, global history in Leiden University, and now she is working more on storytelling. Recently, there have been 2 books published by her. First is, I really like the title, which was Tank Merah Muda. And the second one is, what was the second one? Is Bagaimana Mengatakan Tidak. The Art of...
Bagaimana cara mengatakan tidak?
Bagaimana cara mengatakan tidak. Probably I would translate it, The Art of Saying No. Yeah.
Very good translation.
Okay, thank you. Beside Raisa, here come Tan Hui Koon. Actually, we met Koon some time ago in Banda Aceh. Yeah, it was quite short time actually, but I believe it was a very rewarding conversation. Honestly, in some ways or another, we are really connected, especially when we discuss about the practice of art and how its relation to the social issues and human rights and so on and so on. Koon is now a head curator, one of the curator or head curator in the National Art Gallery in Kuala Lumpur. And she's leading education division and public engagement in Malaysia. Koon also involved in several exhibitions like Gerakan Semasa with young artists, and also she is also involving in Kuala Lumpur Biennial. Yeah. So yeah, I think those are two backgrounds of our speakers tonight, and begitulah kira-kira latar belakang dari 2 pembicara kita pada malam ini ya. Ada Koon dari Malaysia dan Kuala Lumpur yang bekerja di National Gallery di Malaysia, kemudian ada Raisa yang baru saja menerbitkan 2 buku yang saya kira menarik untuk didiskusikan juga. And to begin with, I would like to recall one of my conversation with Irwan Ahmed. So Irwan Ahmed is one of prominent artists in Jakarta. And I really like his metaphor when she mentions about human in some ways or another are like, human bodies are like a hard disk, you know. We call it hard disk, a place where we keep file, we store storage for file. And because human bodies can record experience, skills, and trauma, for example, but most importantly, stories. And I believe in our conversation tonight, both of our speakers have recorded some stories based on their significant experience in their field. Like Raisa, for example, in storytelling or literature, and Koon for in curating or art in general. So probably we will start with Raisa. Kita akan mulai dari Raisa. So Raisa, you're okay, yeah? Okay. Raisa, I remember like 3 years ago. Allow me for a short, a little tiny bit of flashback. Yeah. So it was about 3.
Sure. Go ahead.
3 years ago, yeah, I was working in SOAS Library in London, and I went through Southeast Asia section, and I found a book with white cover, and I'm sure you remember the title. It was Machine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's my first short stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I found it is a short story collections by young writers back then, and I found the first short story appeared there was by Raisa Kamila, and it makes me think that actually you've been starting this act of storytelling since much earlier. Yeah, I believe so. Probably in this occasion we would start by hearing of your experience and how your first encounter with storytelling and how it affects you personally, Raisa.
Oh, okay. Hi, Putra. Thank you for having me. Really excited to share my story here. So yeah, answering to your question, how storytelling became part of my life. I think it has to do with the fact that I live in a very well, not very remote, but I mean, like, I live in this neighborhood in Kampung Pinang where I don't have neighbor. So our house is like very far, and then in front of our house there's this public cemetery. So I mean, like, I don't have peers, I don't have friends, and then it was very lonely. So uh and then I experienced a lot of things. Back in late 90s, my family moved from the United States to Banda Aceh, and a lot of disruption happens. And then I mean, like, I have to process a lot of things back then. So, I mean, like, I used to see the snow, and then like eat bread for breakfast, and then I have to move to Banda Aceh. It's a very like Indonesia. I mean, I have no idea about Indonesia. I don't have any idea about Banda Aceh even, and then all this process, all this confusion about where am I, why do I live here, and then it just like happens, and then I have to find a way to tell those stories, to comprehend it by myself. And then I think writing was I don't think I deliberately like choose writing. At first I was trying I mean, I'm a very slow learner, and then I just started writing when I was in, I think, junior high. Before that, I was like very into painting, no, drawing. So I try to tell my stories I try to comprehend my experience, all this confusion through drawing. And then after I get stuck, I think like, okay, maybe I can. I started to write a journal, a diary, and then like tell myself, explain myself what I see, what I witness, what I feel. And I think that was my first experience sharing stories. And also I have my sister. So my sister Kak Rus, we share beds every night. We will like tell stories, and then like I just know about this animal named Cica, and Cica sounds very strange. It sounds like a ghost for me. And then this animal calls Nyamu, and then it's quite funny because at first we don't really it was a way to understand things around us, like all these new things that and then it didn't start from reading, but more like midnight storytelling. You cannot go to sleep, and then you like share your anxieties, your confusion, what you see in school, your what you heard from your friends. So that kind of stuff that I think well, I would say at first it was confusion, and then try to find people who share the same experience, who share the same confusion, and then storytelling as a way to connect with people, I would say.
All right, very, very fascinating stories. I didn't know. I didn't know. You didn't tell me before.
Well, you didn't ask, so
Okay. Uh, okay. But would you like to tell a bit about the story that you wrote in the book? I mean, what is it about, maybe in general?
oh, you mean machine or
Yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, machine was well, an exciting encounter actually. So back then I was still in junior high, and then like preparing to continue to senior high in Banda Aceh. And then we have like this break between exams. And then back then I was very into Dewi Lestari, uh, and then and I would do like I will like try to copy her style, and then try to imitate the how she structured her stories. And then I randomly wrote the stories about this this young female filmmaker, aspiring filmmaker from Banda Aceh, who studied in Jakarta, and then came back to Banda Aceh because she just like missed her family. So the background was this post tsunami settings in Banda Aceh, and then everything started to change. And then she tries to connect with her past, and then she feels she feels like she doesn't belong anymore in Banda Aceh. Things start to change, although it was it's a good kind of change, because things start to rebuild again, but memories actually brings like, well, not bad experience but bad feeling. So she so the title was kenangan or memories. So actually what I'm trying to say in that story is like those good memories can also give you can bring you nausea. So when the act of remembering itself in a way make you sick. So that's what the protagonist encountered when she was in Banda Aceh. So she sees things, and then she remembers that, but when she thinks about that, actually makes her sick. And then so I always repeat, like, I feel sick, I feel sick, I feel sick. And then surprisingly, it won the Karim Prize. I didn't know about Tukar Pandan back then, so yeah, so I won. And then it was my I met people in Tukar Pandan, and then I started to have a new what I say, a new creative process, I would say. So yeah, so that short story was was very important for my process.
Ah, thank you, Raisa. So yeah. Um, and then thank you, Raisa. We will go back to you more about. We would like to hear. I'm still curious of some part of your process, but now we are going to hear from Koon. So Koon, we met. Unfortunately, we had a very short discussion back then, and I wish you could stay longer. And we can have more conversation, and at least went to more places where we can see and share perspective. I really like when your perspective about art, and probably what I missed back then was that your story, your personal story on how first the idea of being into art comes to your minds, and how it happened, how your first encounter with the art world and curating it, so, and how it affects you personally. Yeah, good. Would you like to share with us?
Hi, thanks Putra, and Raisa's story. Okay, I make a quick bit background introductions. Seems I know we have a short meet last year.
Last year.
Last year.
Yeah, we can say last year. Yeah, more or less.
More or less, yeah. Yeah, I'm a curator of National Art Gallery Malaysia now. One was curator. I was leading education and in the past 2010 to 2015. And then I am in the exhibition department now. So before I was before I am involving in curating, how I say, how I get into art is just naturally. Since young, I love drawing. I love pictures. I love visuals. I was actually born in a family. It's a big family. We have 7 siblings, and I'm the youngest. My grandfather is the first generation of Malaysian, and then my father is the second generation. So I'm the third generation. So it's a very short history of memories of family in this new nation of Malaysia, before and after independence. So my grandfather involved in more laboring with farming. So my family's are farming, getting involved into farming of cocoa estate or rubber estate. It's very colonial kind of cultural and economic activities. And then my father is a civil servant. He educated and then he became a teacher, later become a headmaster. So I born in a very free yet very strict family. So since very young, I was following my siblings and parents, went to the estate, farms to work. So this all sweat, smells, the senses are very strong to me actually. Sensitivity to environment, weathers, climate is very, very strong. So since young, my sensor is very strong. I think this affected me in art as well. So I translated into visuals. So I get very strong visual sense of visuals. Then I was trained in fine art, getting my diploma and degree. Yet the Malaysian landscape is a little bit different from Indonesia. Malaysian landscape is we are a lot of institutions, higher education institutions are producing artists. So we are trained in artists, we are graduate, we become an artist, but we are lacking a complete ecosystem, like we are lacking of curators training, writers training, even managers training. Until very recent, these 10 years is huge transitions. So a lot of the curators in my age are from fine art background. So we are kind of turn ourselves into multitasking. I would say early 2000 is quite pleasing, and then the experience of graduate from fine art, and then we have to be interdependent. Not say independent, but then it's interdependent. That means that we need, collaborate, or meeting people who are facing the same problem. We are not have enough of exposure, space for exposure. How we get together and then create space for ourselves. So this all collaborations, sense of collaborations, of meeting people is natural coming in. And then it kind of shaped me into curatorial as well. Yeah. So slowly getting involved in more on self-initiating exhibitions. The other side is I'm more getting into community art education programs. Yeah. So from there, I kind of exposed to how to turn stories or materials into mediating, become a syllabus, and then or mediating these all materials, and then let people to engage. So either through education way or through exhibition. So I think that's how I becoming a curator nowadays, attached with an institution where to avoid conflict of interest, I slowly, and then it's a very new field for me. I slowly get into curatorial instead of practicing as an artist.
So how about you? So then we can say like you learn by yourself about the idea of curating, of being curator. You learn through the process that you initiate with your community, or can we say like that?
The peers, yeah. Then we evolve, become something else.
Okay. So can you tell us one of your earlier project back then, like that you did in first exhibition maybe? What was it about?
I think all of us have the experience of, graduate show is our first experience how to organize our own show. And then I think first graduated, I was involved in an art camp, youth art camp that organized by National Art Gallery. So this art camp is the art director is Hasno Jamal Saidon. Himself also is a multidisciplinary artist. He is an artist, he's a painter, he's a new media artist, he is an art writer, he is a curator, and then later he is a lecturer. He is he also was a director of a museum in Tunku Fauzia. So, you know, with this kind of exposure, when just fresh grad, getting involved with field camp, meeting with a very interesting background of people, facilitators, how they hope we young people cross interdisciplinary and work together without boundaries, which is bound on which school where we graduated. We are not just socialized within our own group or own schools. How we break these boundaries, being more connected with others instead of with the same school's mentality. Yeah, and then after the camp, then we produce artwork, and then there's a part of involving performance exhibitions coming in. So how we create content and context for our exhibitions from the experience of the whole youth camp. Yeah, that is how that youth camp called Sonaratia. Is the scientific name of pokok kayu bakau.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kun. So I really like when you mentioned about breaking the boundaries, like and creating the bridges. So it reminds me of the current practice conducted by Raisa Kamila with her friends, especially in the book. So Raisa published a book that. It is a collection of short stories by various writers, women writers, and from different parts of Indonesia, and how they experience the situation after Reformation, Raisa. Yeah, more or less, yeah, and
Yeah.
probably Raisa would like to tell us a bit about how this, because you know, like we all know, like unlike the practice of curating, where we always we need and we are required to collaborate, right? We need to work with the artists. We need to have we need to work with the researchers and with the gallery owners or other sites. But then when the idea of writing, I was thinking like it is more solitary, you know, like it is a solitude work. You sit alone and then you think, you get the inspiration and then you write it down. For me, it seems like it is a solitary act. But in this sense, I think it is quite unique in a way that how they collaborate and find ideas and put the storytelling as part of a collaboration. And Raisa, probably, would you mind telling us and sharing a bit some insights about your experiences and how the idea comes up and why? So yeah, probably Raisa would like to share about it.
So, well, how to start? Well, maybe first thing that triggered the collaboration process was we want to debunk the idea that writing is a solitary act. A lot of people keep saying that, you know, if you're a writer, you must be very lonely. You live in your own room and then nobody understands you. You only live with you and your writings and your all your ideas. So we want to break that myth. So because it's I don't know, it just feels very snob for me, like, you're a writer, so you have to exclude yourself from society in order to have this inspiration to tell stories. I think is this very strange. So yeah, and then what we try to so and then the second idea was we want to experiment with the creative process. So most of what well we know that a lot of, because we know a lot of writers used to write stories in solitude. We want to experiment how if we write stories in a together, but like personal stories, which is bounded by a time frame, by a history, by a shared history. And then we can experiment with a specific perspective. And then we can like do research based fiction. So if in the contemporary art we have like this research based artwork, now we have a research based fiction, which is I don't know if it's really like unfamiliar before, but we rarely hear about that. So yeah, we try to do that. And yeah, so that was like the two main ideas, how we started. And then back in 2018, there's this open call from Cipta Media Ekspresi, uh, for women in arts. Uh, So me and my friend Amanatia Junda, who lives in Sidoarjo in East Java, we were good friends, but we never really discussed things when we met offline. So we just like chat in Facebook, and then sending emails, sending our fictions, and then asking for feedbacks. But we never like really meet and then hang out. So when there's an open call for this Cipta Media Ekspresi, and then both of us like came with the idea like, yeah, let's work together. But how? But what we're going to do? And then I was like, okay, let's just write stories, like, and then like like learn together. But how? And then it must be very boring if it's only the two of us. So we started to seek other aspiring woman writers. We're trying to scrolling our mutuals in social media, in Twitter and Instagram, and then those who give links to their blog in the bio, in their profile. We just like click them and then see if it's if the writings is like promising. So we just like randomly approach them and say, hey, we have this idea for this project. We want to write something together, but we don't know yet. Are you interested? Are you want to join with us? So yeah, so that's how it started. And then when we already, so and then the idea was we want to learn together from with people who experience restrictions, who experience who couldn't access resources, rich resources, like me, because I grew up in Banda Aceh, where we hardly find good books. There's no bookstores until 2 years ago. So if we want to buy good books, we have to drive 12 hours to Medan just to buy a book. Before there's an online shipping, online bookstores. So and then there's no so we try to to collaborate with other aspiring women writers who have the same experience, of wanting to learn how to write, but face all these structural problems, and have a lot of issues about you want to be writers, but there's a lot of stigma if you're a woman, and then there's a lot of burdens if you're a mom. So that kind of thing that we want to tackle by working together. So yeah, and then we discuss what kind of topics that we think can can bound us together. So we think, okay, maybe history, because we live in Indonesia, there's this, shared history that all of us in different province experience together. So we think, okay, maybe it's the 1965 event, but it's way too far, and we cannot really remember it because we haven't been there. Or maybe it's the post Soeharto period, where we were still very young, but somehow we have some memories about that, or people surround us have more 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 to say about those periods. So that's that's how we decide, so actually every, because we live in different province, so all the communication, discussion, dialogues happens through WhatsApp group. So and then the name of our WhatsApp group was like emerging writers. So it's a an aspiration. So yeah, so that's how we start, and then we apply for the open call, and then we got selected, and then we got the funding, and then we start to then we start to think like, okay, how are we gonna do this? What is the first thing to start? So we think like, okay, maybe because we came from a different provinces, and then we came from a different starting point, we have like different education and different interests. So we create well, not a curriculum, but we create a workshop for us, and then we decided, okay, what we want to learn. So we want to learn about the contemporary history of Indonesia, and then we want to learn about creative writing. We want to learn about research methods about history and memory, and then how we can incorporate those methods in writing our fiction. So we create like a very heavy loaded workshop in Jogja. So we met after all this discussion in WhatsApp. We met in Yogyakarta twice for the workshop. So after that, we went to the field. We went to our villages, our kampung halaman. So one friend went back to Dili, nowadays East Timor, and then yeah, and another friend went back to Makassar. And then so we collect stories in our hometown by using the methods that we learn in the workshop. So we 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 experiment with ways you can collect stories, where you can find inspirations, and then after that after going to the field, we write the stories. So this part only is a solitude act. So we write it by ourselves, and then but we welcome feedback from others, and then we read each other's works, and then we give feedback. So it's a yeah, it's a very it's very, I think it's very collaborative. Yeah, it's a very collaborative and different creative process.
Right. All right. It's quite. I'm sure it's quite long process and quite challenging.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a year and a half, I think, the whole process, and we're
Okay.
still like working together until now.
Okay. Cool. And talking about yeah, that is interesting that we are the idea that you collect. I mean, you gather with many other young women writers for this similar purpose, and it is binded with shared history. This is interesting that there is some specific event happens, but we can have various angles and various experience on how we react to that specific situation or situated historical event. And it is interesting. I think it has something to do with Koon as well. When this idea of young artist and young woman writer, and in your case here, I learned that you work with young artists in aliran semasa, right? Koon, we are a bit curious. Probably, if you don't mind, you would like to share to us a bit about the exhibition, the idea of aliran semasa, and how it comes into being, and probably you have some issues or some interesting stories about it.
Okay, Aliran Semasa, actually I'm co-curating. It's a conference-based event program with a lot of pockets of site exhibitions, peripheral exhibitions that as an experiment platform to crystallize what we have been discussed through the conference. So Aliran Semasa actually is discussing or a discourse on what is new media in media, art and technology in Malaysia's art. Yeah, I think more come together or more challenging process was woman show. There was a 101 woman show in 2017. I gather about 101 woman artists in Malaysia. Half of it from National Art Gallery's collections, and then another half there was a participations of exhibition across woman artists across ages and generations. So that one is very challenging, where a woman show people will has a very stereotype of perspective on woman artists, kind of a convenience or come together as a gender-based exhibitions. And then people are expecting, or some people are expecting, woman artists only expressed through a victimized perspective, where artists who just been celebrating themselves and expressing joy, happiness through artworks is a bit like sideline. So the exhibitions basically together more than 100 artists, women artists, through different perspective, different kind of expressions, different kind of backgrounds, different of generations and their thought, their experience. So that one is quite challenging to put a lot of people in one show, and to select only one work to represent the individual's voice. Yeah, so that is.
So yeah, I think the highlighting point here that I want to scrutinize further is the idea of representation, and what are probably in that sense, in your experience, what are your considerations when it comes to the idea or to the issue of representation in that sense?
Struggle with the gaze of gender, and biasness of being participated. Definitely, there are more women artists. It's not just because one show that cluster as women artists. If I have choice, I wouldn't say it's a woman artist show. I would just say 101 artist show. Where this, but yet in reality, we still can't ignore the inconvenience that women artists face. Yeah, the representations, I think it has to be always being challenged and always have to be breakthrough. There will be more solidarity gatherings or cross dialogue among the artists and different field of people, like Raisa's experience, which very inspiring. how women writers come together and share, yet glue together, work out something. That one is really inspiring. Where once we start participating to change our environment, that definitely shows a different way of representation.
Interesting. This is why that I really like this kind of discussion, this kind of conversation, where there is always something that we can exchange, we can share, like, or at least we have some kind of similarities in some ways, like what we can learn from, for example, I personally, what I can learn from Raisa and what I can learn from Koon, and what Raisa can learn from Koon, and from each other. So it is very interesting. That's why I really like it, the flow of ideas and thoughts. Especially this is the one that that takes me into the art world. I find this very significant, such kind of practices in the art world. And back to Raisa. Just now Raisa mentioned about about shared history as a binding, and how to make those differences come together with different angles, difference, but have one common direction or one common angle, or events, historical event. And probably Raisa, would you mind telling us a bit about your consideration when you choose your story? As far as I remember, it's about the Nora, yeah? The actor of Nora, and maybe you would tell us a bit about why you choose that story, that narrative, and what are your considerations, and why you think it is worth writing and worth reading. Yeah.
Yeah, Putra, thanks for the question. Always very hard question from Putra, yeah.
I hope not. I tried my best.
But yeah, I mean, like I will try to manage my thoughts. Okay, so how to start? Yeah. So first thing is I see. This history about Reformasi post Soeharto period in Aceh or in Indonesia in general is very much focusing on big events, on demonstration, on the mass rape, on rapat MPR, sidang paripurna, those kind of things, like very institutional in a way, and sometimes only focus in certain provinces. So what I'm trying to do with my fictions, and also with the collaboration project, was like to capture stories like everyday lives, everyday life stories experienced by women and then remembered by women, about various ways those social political that their personal life in a good or bad way. So and then if we look literature about Aceh in those periods written by Azari or by Arafat Nur, mostly focus on the experience of people in rural areas, and then how they sympathize with the Free Aceh movement, and or how they become victims of the Indonesian military, Indonesian army. So I want to write something that resonates with my own experience. I mean, like, of course, I heard about this, gunfire, bombings surround my environment, but I want to write about how a girl growing up in those situations, but especially in Banda Aceh, where conflicts was not as intense as in other part of Aceh. So in a way, she can still go to school. She can still, playing basketball with her friends, but she also expect bad things to happen. But when or how bad it will be, she couldn't figure it out. And then I start to think like, okay, so I'm a privileged Chinese girl. I grew up in an educated family. I'm a Muslim, and I can speak Chinese. But so I mean, like, in a good position. So if bad things happen, it will not be that bad for me. So if Aceh gets separated from Indonesia, I will not. I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to be, I don't have to be a refugee and then go outside of Aceh because, I'm an Achenese. I'm Muslim. I can just follow the rules. But what if a non-Achenese, a non-Muslims have to experience this on daily basis? So that's what I'm trying to, to see. So I met two ladies, two young adult woman in Banda Aceh. One is a Manado Manado Protestant, and another one is a Hakka. Is a Catholic. So I discussed with them, and then I explored their experience, and then we share stories, and then I asked them if they're comfortable if I wrote about those, and then like obviously I will like twist some part, and then say like, hey, of course, and then and then there's also this notion in Aceh that, yeah, the minorities in Aceh, they feel safe here, they were not treated badly, they can be uh, they can just like do their rituals and prayings without fear of people will burn down their prayer house. So there's this notion that Chinese people are very tolerant, uh, because there's no mass rape like what happens in Jakarta. There's no racism, blah blah blah. But well, in an institutional level, there's no such things. But on the daily and everyday life, those things happens. So that's what I'm trying. So that's the idea when when I heard stories from these two women about their coming of age period in Aceh, when they were Protestants and Catholics. There's a special school for them in Banda Aceh, but they choose to go to public school. And then after in early 2000, there's this new rules, the Sharia law that was being implemented after the failed referendum call, and then everyone in Aceh has to wear hijab, has to wear jilbab as part of their school uniform. So you're a Catholic or you're a Protestant or you're Buddhist, and then you went to public school, and then suddenly everyone wear hijab. So you stand out as a minority. But before that, you were just like you were same like everybody else because no one wear hijab. So I want to capture the experience, but and then I want to like to counter the notion that, yeah, we're very tolerant, we're Acehans, we're very tolerant, blah blah blah, but you never consider this kind of things. And then I heard a lot of people, non-Muslims in Banda Aceh, now they also have to to wear hijab, to wear jilbab, not because someone told them to, but because they don't want to feel seen as a minority. They want to integrate. So I think this kind of things is very disturbing for me. And then
Then
I,
you
yeah, I
put
want
them
to,
together into
yeah.
literature, and it's about how
Mm-mm.
storytelling and how literature says something about it. So yeah, more or
Yeah,
less, yeah.
yeah,
So
that's what
yeah,
I'm trying to do.
yeah, it's very interesting. And what about like Kun? Like as you have told, there are several Malaysian young artists, and they collaborate together, and you work with them. And what are their issues that they're talking about mostly, and how you, for example, personally manage those differences into one harmony, and what makes the collaboration possible in those differences. Maybe you can share your experiences a bit.
There's hardly to say to create the harmonies, because art always is a conflict.
Okay.
Well, I don't keep my mind in a very specific of differentiations with others. Although that feeling is as in the larger landscape or environment, with our system that's a little bit different from Indonesia. Yeah, it definitely create difference with one among races as well. Yeah, but in order to create harmonious, which is before I said, we should come together more and gather and show solidarity with each another, with cross dialogues more often, in able to understand or to reach a kind of empathy. The feel, the share memories, share feelings among each another. Then this kind of appearance differences will not be there in the way. And so in curating art among artists, I think these all differences or difference actually is come from competing to get the resources. Therefore, it created the difference as you know, to manage to segregate people, not come together and share the resources. This only I found it happened because only with this trick we create insecurity among our own community and not come together and not share together.
And I really like your statement, like art is always a conflict. Yeah, to me personally, because I write short stories, and one thing that I always remember about the storytelling is happy situation is not a story. So that's why in the story we always need conflict, because it is conflict that creates the story. And maybe can you tell us some of in your experience in curating those artists, and what of interesting stories that you think like it speaks something or common or shared history or common experience? Maybe you can explain one of the artworks or artists that what you find it is interesting in your personal view in this sense.
At this moment, it's hardly to tell you, but it always different time, different moment of me have different interests. Maybe now I read like skip of mine. I'm not put some certain particular in my mind, but only can say my past or what triggered me into fine art, especially this art, especially in this art world, is like Wang Hui Chong's Migrant series. There is a black and white charcoal drawing. One of the work entitled she was 14, married at 14 and has 14 children. So the image basically is a Chinese woman with a very peasant costume, entire, squatting among the rubber trees, and with the 14 children around her, and the trees kind of composite like a bar. You know, she kind of trapped or jailed in that situation. That one triggered me because first is very where I come from, my background from a huge family, many siblings, and in the agricultural sectors, from the agriculture sector. This really kind of like give me a kind of I would say kind of link straight away, like, oh, this art is very touch. This kind of art is very touch. It really speaks out certain people's stories, and through visual, we don't need a lot of words. It's really speak out. Yeah, the entire generation's struggles and history. But through different stage, from the migrants' stories, nation building stories, in arts, I keep, it's just like me, keep on moving on. And I found I can't just keep on trapped in a certain sentiment and history movement. And I'm also growing, and I learned that past is past. What about present and future? So I keep looking at a different kind of artwork. And until this age is more on maybe woman. I wasn't really trapped in gender. And maybe in this age, I'm more think twice about woman in art. Yeah, especially how society perceive a woman's role. Yeah, and how woman is portrayed in art. So the very reason I compared J.C. John's the witch, that one is Tremble Tremble, show in Venice Biennale in 2017, compared with Ilan's Pontianak series artwork, where both actually is portraying or inspiring by locals feminist movement, yet using the folk. One is from Western, is witch, woman portrayed as witch. The different kind of women are witches. And in our Southeast Asia, probably the most horrific haunted ghosts are Pontianak.
We call it Kuntilana.
Pontianak.
Yeah.
Where the both kind of monsterized women in the society through folklore. Reflected a lot how a society perceive gays and women's role in our society.
All right.
Yeah. So these are what I'm looking at.
Okay, it is in very interesting, and I can find one common language in both of you. When the idea of voice, yeah. So when Raisa explained about the story of Nora, about the minority in her short story, it has a voice. You know, it says something, and also you are fascinated by the artwork that has a voice in it. So talking about my question is for both of you, talking about the idea or the concept of collaboration and also the artwork itself. To what extent do you think like art should have a voice? Or what are your thoughts on this collaboration and artwork and have a voice? So what is your personal views on this? Do all artwork, you think a good artwork has voice, or what do you think about it? Who will? Maybe Raisa will, or Kun first. Kun will answer, and then Raisa will answer. One question for both of you. I cannot hear your voice. I think it is muted. Okay.
Okay. I think every expressions are voices. Through songs, music, movement, body movement. We draw through lines, colors, text. When we speak, these all expressions are voices. So there's no really specific. It's only how we listen. I think.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. Are we willing to listen to the voices? Yeah. Maybe this genre is not my type, or this moment I'm not really want to listen to certain thing. Yeah. I probably just ignore. Yeah. It's not about good art or bad art. It's just how far we're willing to listen.
Okay. So this is what I really like in having conversation with you, Kun. You always some kind of wisdom in how we deal with cultural issues, and especially in the field of art. There is kind of wise thoughts on how our attitude and how we react to specific art and to the idea of beauty, for example. Willing to listen is, I think, is very important. That's because mostly, for example, people tend to judge first, and this is good, this is bad, and I think this is kind of wisdom when we want to listen. So, and then maybe the question is also for Raisa. I would like to hear from what are your views on this, Raisa?
Oh, well, I think what comes first is the voice, and then you try to find ways to channel your voices. Can be it's just like what Kun says. It can be through text, it can be through music, it can be through artworks, performance, movement. So I think every artist have these voices that they wanna let people to hear it, to listen to it. So I think if the question is to what extent it's important, I think it's not only important, but it is the starting point to creating something. So yeah, so obviously important.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Because this kind of topics has long been debated, I think, about the role of art and how whether we can, if you look at history, there are many conversations as well on this issue. But in this end, I think I agree that sometimes we have something to say, and there is a need to express our thoughts, emotion, and feelings, and in many aspects that humans are going through. I'm so sorry, the voice is quiet. Okay. So then it's very, very interesting conversation. And also talking about the idea of collaboration, and of course there should be, and how you personally would deal with for example, we know that we have a different perspective on life, right, on realities. We have a different values, and we have different ways of saying things, and even in other words, also we have some different ideologies of reality. And to what extent we should have some tolerance, or in your personal experience, how you could tolerate and one that you cannot tolerate, and how you balance between your personal so-called ideology with the different perspective, and how you find the balance, and how to create a dialogue in that sense, in your experience. I'd like to hear. Probably Kun would like to share. Yeah, Kun, I think it's muted. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, my neighborhood is very happening, so
Okay, no problem. It happens in life. Okay.
How we balance it now? Therefore, is how Raisa probably is like the title of Raisa's book, how we learn to say no. Yeah, I have to accept that it's not wrong for me to say no. Yeah. And if yeah, probably is, yeah.
Hello, Kun.
So 3 is quite low.
Yeah, I can hear. We missed some of your words. Would you mind saying that again?
Okay. Well, how I balance it is if I'm not feeling wanted to deal with certain situations, I have to say no.
All right. Thank you, Kun. And so being able to say no, as what Raisa's book says, yeah, being able to say no, which is the hardest in some ways, which is the hardest things to do in some occasion. But I know it is very challenging for me personally, at least. But indeed, like we have to find. In some ways, we have to have hold on the values, and in some ways, we also need to kind of put a dialogue. But in that sense, it's everyone's in conflict with your ideals, your values. I think, yeah, I agree that we should, yeah, be able to say no, or yeah, otherwise something worse or unexpected would happen instead. And what about Raisa? Maybe you have some additional thoughts on these very specific issues.
So I think everybody have this, this limit of things that they can tolerate, and then I think working collaboratively extend this limit. So at first maybe you cannot eat certain kind of foods, and then if you like work together or you live together with other people, you try to like a little bit of it, and then you like, okay, I can tolerate this. So it's a process, it's a constant process of in your thought. So yeah, so and then based on my experience with collaboration project, but also with other work, collaborative work, I think it's really important to always be open, new ideas and a new perspective, because you will never know what kind of, and then it will, I mean, like for me myself, I think working collaboratively had made me interrogate myself of things that I have learned previously. And then I mean, like all this process, learning, unlearning, relearning, always being repeated, and then it also affected the things that you can or cannot tolerate in the whole process. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's answering your question, but it's just like, you know, this thoughts when you're asking about the tolerant, the way we can, the extent we can tolerate in working collaboratively.
Right. So very interesting piece of thought, Raisa. Especially, I really agree, totally agree, to keep questioning ourselves and to keep cultivating our capacity, our ideas, especially as a cultural workers, we are required to always have a creative energy and to channel it in a positive way, quote unquote. And so reflecting on your story of working together, like Raisa in story in literature and collaboration between literature and collaboration, and that you channel through storytelling, and also Koon through her practices in curating and dealing with the artists, collaborating with young artists, with women artists. How would you say, how would you reflect this, probably the meaning of collaboration to you after all those experiences, what it means, and how would you see the future of collaboration? Probably we'll start with Koon.
How I perceive collaboration is always collaborations. I would like this more think in this interdependence way of working together, because we have different strengths as a group, as individuals. Come together, basically we really need each another's to complement, to complete a certain or to move a certain visions that we come together. Yeah. So interdependence is a word, I think it's more be that in my working environment, that collaborate, that yeah, it is a way of collaboration. But interdependent is more on we are knowing what we are lacking or what we have strength, how we rely or put the trust to each another. Yeah, because come together, work together has a lot of way of working, have to give and take a lot, have to negotiate, constantly negotiate, enable to reach a certain level of understanding to move together. Yeah, but how I seeing the future collaboration? I'm not sure yet, but within this very pandemic situation, and we are going more and more online, I have a very funny ideas is probably we come together or meet together through avatar, or there's not really a physical together. It's more on mental psychology, or through virtual or through a mediated representations, yeah, to come together. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's a long way to talk about future, because currently is dealing a lot of current present situations that also strike me a lot to think how far we can change from our old habits to new habits, or old culture to new culture. How far we can give and take or move forward. Yeah.
All right, very, 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 very interesting answer. And in fact, yeah, we are not or sure about how the future would be, but at least I really like your imagination, like Avatar, and how the idea of being together. It reminds me of a saying when my friend asked me to join the thing that I cannot be there, and she said, "You are with us in spirit." So it's kind of invisible collaboration, but I think it is very interesting how to stay connected emotionally despite a physical restriction or yeah, physical restrictions in that sense. And what about Raisa? How would you reflect on that idea of literature collaboration, and how would you see the future of collaborations?
Well, specifically in the literary scene in Indonesia, I think collaboration is a strategy to tackle structural issues and problems faced by not only women writers but also queers and disabled writers throughout Indonesia. So I think working collaboratively will we can like uh, uh, be in a process together to I really like the idea of interdependence, like Kun said, and know your strength and your weakness, and then one another can feel can feeling like, okay, I'm lacking at this point, and how can you help? And then I'm good at this point. How can I share? So, that's missing in the literary scene in Indonesia. And then how about future collaboration, especially after the pandemic? Still processing. Sure, we only 5, and then but I mean, it is still very important to find new methods, and new approach to collaborate with each other. Not only like yeah yeah that's I think that's that's the only thing that I have for now.
Okay.
So thanks, Putra, for the question. Always very hard.
I don't think, but I'm making an effort to make it as simple as possible. So I call it storytelling. So, but I would like to,
Yes.
I would like to conclude both of your thoughts and ideas. First and foremost, I would like to thank you so much for brilliant ideas and sharing your experiences. And I really like the word that Raisa says, working collaboratively in the future, and also about the concept of interdependent of Hui Koon. So I believe I remember when one of my writers said, like, every big civilization in the world, like Abbasia in the 13th century, and in many big kingdom, it all happened because they could because our senses are limited, our strengths are limited to see things. So when we collaborate and see each other, it will kind of putting our strengths into one common place, and we share it together. It will make us stronger, but make us hopefully become better. So I think that's going to be the end of our conversation tonight. I'm very happy. I'm very glad. Thank you so much for Koon, who've been giving some of her time, and also for Raisa Kamila. And I hope good luck for both of you for your future endeavor in creative and cultural field. So thank you. Back to Bang Andan.
Yeah, thank you, Putra, for hosting this Walkie Talkie session 6. It's a great stories we we heard and we learned a lot from the perspective of Koon and Raisa. As you mentioned that, and also as you concluded. So I think I don't need to make any conclusion from this discussion. But I think this conversation is not the end. This is not the last time we discuss or we converse. Hopefully that we will meet in the real life to converse. Probably with the question from Putra, which will be harder or softer, it depends on him. But Putra, keep questioning people with hard question. It's your style, and then it's very good. Go for it.
Thanks for encouraging Putra to do that, Andan.
Yeah. We need to encourage him to be as hard as possible.
That's what good creators do. So go ahead, Putra.
Okay, thank you so much again, Putra, Raisa, and Hui Koon. We're in Indonesia now, like Raisa in Bandung, Putra in Sigli, Aceh, and I'm in Makassar, South Sulawesi, and Jaja Dibrata, who is helping us very generously to organize the Zoom meeting. He's in Jakarta. So actually we are in 4 different places, in 2 different times. With Koon, 3 different times. No, 2 different times, because Kuala Lumpur and Makassar is the same
Time zone.
Time zone. Okay, thank you so much, and see you soon to the next Walkie Talkie session 7, which will take place November 15 next month. So Walkie Talkie is always on the 15th. But it's good because still there's no hard question from Putra, why 15? So we still keep going. Okay, thank you so much and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Raisa.
Thank you, Putra, and then Koon. Hope to
you.
see you all anytime soon.
Thank you.